This girl is the queen of the #1 girls' school in all of South Korea. Beautiful, kind, and wealthy. The amount of money she donates to the school every year is enough to buy the entire institution. All her classmates long to befriend her, and some are even willing to pay a hefty sum just to sit next to her. However, among a group of wealthy heiresses, she chooses the poorest girl in the school as her deskmate. Everyone is curious. What kind of charm does this girl, who wears a rural school uniform, possess? Her name is Seul Gi. Since childhood, she has had no sense of presence. When she was 5 years old, she attended a school-organized exchange event, but because she wasn't wearing a uniform, she was forgotten on the beach and became a lost child. She was sent to an orphanage, where she remained unnoticed. If her classmates didn't remind her to eat, she would go hungry. The kitchen auntie never remembered to set aside a meal for her. She drifted through life like this until she turned 18. Although she had come of age, her orphan status prevented her from finding a regular job. Fortunately, a kind senior introduced her to a part-time job, which turned out to involve using a fake ID to buy prescription drugs. However, this experience unexpectedly changed Seul Gi's life. After completing one of these tasks, the senior suddenly asked her about her dreams. Seul Gi was taken aback. She had never thought about this before. The senior sneered, then handed her a pack of pills, saying that these were something the wealthy in Gangnam fought to buy. Finally, he hinted to her, "If you don't want to keep living like this, then from now on, study hard." For some reason, these words, spoken by someone so unreliable, held an inexplicable persuasiveness. Seul Gi began to study diligently, rising from the bottom of the class to rank 15th in the school. As her grades improved, she noticed that the kitchen auntie started paying attention to her, even bringing her a warm, late-night meal. This kindness made Seul Gi wonder, if she became the top student, would she be treated even better? Determined to push herself further, she took out the pack of pills the senior had given her and swallowed them in one go. These pills were truly something special. After taking them, she could focus intensely, and her mind had never felt so clear. In this state, she secured the #1 spot in the school on the second exam. Even the bullies who used to target her no longer dared to lay a hand on her. Having tasted the benefits of being at the top, Seul Gi became even more determined to maintain her ranking. At the same time, she grew increasingly dependent on the effects of the drug, to the point where she secretly stockpiled pills while working part-time. Not long after, the orphanage found Seul Gi's biological father. She quit her part-time job and went to Seoul to reunite with him. 4 months later, Seul Gi transferred to the #1 girls' school in South Korea. On her first day, she arrived at the school in an old red uniform, dragging a suitcase to complete her enrollment procedures. As soon as she stepped onto the campus, she immediately sensed that the atmosphere here was entirely different from her previous school. The homeroom teacher took one look at her and simply told her to find her own classroom. Seul Gi pulled her suitcase along, asking for directions, but in this high school where everyone carried Chanel bags, no one paid her any attention. By chance, she walked into the auditorium where the opening ceremony was taking place. The hall was chaotic, and even an old woman was inside selling flowers. Just as the crowd was trying to drive the old woman away, a girl suddenly stepped forward and announced that she would buy all the flowers. Seul Gi quietly stood to the side, watching as the girl purchased the flowers. Then, the girl walked up to the stage, and the previously noisy auditorium fell silent. She introduced herself as Yoo Je I, and then began to host the ceremony in fluent English. The audience below, including the teachers, listened in complete silence. Seeing this, Seul Gi immediately understood. Yoo Je I was undoubtedly the one at the pinnacle of this school. However, what Seul Gi did not expect was that Yoo Je I was in the same class as her. The homeroom teacher warmly greeted her and told her she could choose anyone as her deskmate. The students in the room immediately became excited, hoping to be chosen by their goddess. Yoo Je I, like a queen, walked around the classroom twice, carefully observing the eager eyes fixed on her. Finally, to everyone's surprise, she sat down next to the seemingly ordinary and out-of-place transfer student. "Hello, my name is Yoo Je I. I know, I just heard earlier." After class, a few students approached Seul Gi and took turns making offers to buy her seat. Seul Gi remained indifferent. She only cared about sitting as close to the teacher's desk as possible. In the end, she agreed to exchange seats with a girl sitting in the middle of the classroom. After the exchange was complete, Yoo Je I suddenly burst into the room, looking for her deskmate to go eat together. The girl who had taken Seul Gi's old seat excitedly looked at Yoo Je I, thinking she had become the new deskmate. But to her shock, Yoo Je I grabbed Seul Gi's hand. "Let's go. I'm starving." This countryside girl stepped into the elite girls' school and immediately found herself in a Mary Sue scenario. The queen of the school not only personally chose her as a deskmate but also allowed her to join her close friend group. Yoo Je I's two best friends stared at Seul Gi in confusion, unable to understand why she was letting a poor transfer student into their circle. In reality, Seul Gi shared the same question. However, as the conversation unfolded, she quickly realized Yoo Je I's true intent. She wanted to know about Seul Gi's university aspirations and academic achievements. Yoo Je I revealed that her goal was to study medicine at Seoul National University, as she wished to fulfill her father's last wish. Then, she eagerly asked Seul Gi if she was also aiming for Seoul National University because she had noticed the university's keychain hanging on Seul Gi's bag. In truth, Seul Gi didn't want anyone to know her aspirations, fearing they would mock her for being overly ambitious. The conversation continued, and the friends asked Seul Gi where she attended cram school. Seul Gi hesitantly admitted that she had never taken extra classes, which left them completely stunned. After all, no one in the school went without tutoring. Even Yoo Je I, who practically had one foot in Seoul National University already, was attending 3 advanced math classes. Now, it was Seul Gi's turn to be shocked. But what came next startled her even more. She discovered that these students, just like her, were using a mysterious drug to enhance their cognitive abilities. Panic surged within her as she suddenly felt like the drug she had relied on had lost its effect. How was she supposed to compete with these wealthy heiresses, who not only had top-tier tutors, but were also using secret supplements to secure their place at Seoul National University? After lunch, Seul Gi returned to the classroom to pack her things, preparing to switch seats with the other girl. At that moment, another classmate warned her not to change seats without Yoo Je I's permission, adding that those chosen by Yoo Je I would never have a peaceful day. However, Seul Gi dismissed the warning and quickly switched seats. When Yoo Je I returned and saw what had happened, she asked why Seul Gi had moved. Seul Gi explained that she was nearsighted and wanted to sit closer to the teacher's desk. "You should have told me. We could have switched seats together instead. See on high, we shouldn't trouble the others," she added, turning back to her original seat. Seul Gi observed closely but saw no sign of dissatisfaction on Yoo Je I's face. Thinking the matter had passed, she didn't dwell on it further. The long and turbulent first day of school finally came to an end. When she got home, Seul Gi immediately went on a second-hand marketplace website to buy a school uniform. After negotiating with the seller, she went to the designated meeting point to make the exchange. Upon receiving the uniform, she rushed straight to the laundromat, intending to wash it immediately. To her disgust, the uniform was stained with an unknown liquid, and inside the pocket, she found an opened condom wrapper. Horrified, she threw the uniform into the washing machine without hesitation. The next day, Seul Gi arrived at school wearing the freshly cleaned uniform. However, she soon noticed that her classmates were all looking at her with strange expressions. Then, Yoo Je I's new desk mate deliberately spilled ketchup on her shirt. "I can still smell the scent of semen on your uniform," she sneered. "Just because you get to be around Yoo Je I, do you think you're some kind of Cinderella?" The surrounding students joined in with mocking laughter, and at that moment, memories of past bullying flooded back to Seul Gi. She finally understood the warning from before. Those chosen by Yoo Je I would never have a peaceful day. Feeling suffocated, she ran to the restroom to scrub the stain from her shirt. Unexpectedly, Yoo Je I followed her and offered her own shirt for Seul Gi to change into. "Wow, Seul Gi fits into my clothes perfectly," Yoo Je I said with a smile. Fearing that any interaction with Yoo Je I would bring her more trouble, Seul Gi firmly pushed her away and kept her distance. Yoo Je I didn't force her. Instead, she casually tossed the stained shirt into the trash before slamming the door and leaving. After washing her clothes and returning to class, Seul Gi was caught off guard when the homeroom teacher suddenly handed out a math test, giving the class only 20 minutes to complete it. Seul Gi realized that the problems on the test were completely unfamiliar to her. Panicking, she only managed to solve 4 questions. Meanwhile, Yoo Je I and several other students effortlessly achieved perfect scores. After class, Seul Gi rushed to ask the teacher for the correct answers. However, the teacher explained that the test was used to evaluate students attending external cram schools, and the answers would only be discussed in those classes. Seul Gi was completely dumbfounded. In other words, if she didn't enroll in a cram school, she would inevitably fall behind. Because of extra classes, Seul Gi became confused. During lunch, she noticed her classmates holding their phones and talking about her. Seul Gi couldn't take it anymore. She threw down her lunch tray and grabbed a classmate's phone to check. It turned out that someone had posted about her buying a second-hand uniform online. Self-proclaimed former students of the school had left harsh insults in the comments. Seul Gi felt helpless. She had no idea who had secretly followed and taken pictures of her. She could only pretend as if nothing had happened. After school, she went to nearby tutoring centers to inquire about tuition fees. The prices were so expensive that she nearly fainted, so she took a flyer and prepared to leave. However, as she passed by a classroom, she saw the teacher explaining the answers to today's test. On impulse, she took out her phone, intending to record a video, but was caught on the spot by the admissions teacher. The teacher treated her as if she were sneaking in to attend the class for free and chased after her relentlessly. While Seul Gi was waiting for the elevator, she was almost caught by the teacher. Luckily, Yoo Je I, who had just arrived for her extra class, saw her. Yoo Je I handed her hat to Seul Gi and told her to hide on the rooftop, saying that way the teacher wouldn't be able to catch her. Seul Gi quickly ran up to the rooftop to hide. A while later, it started to rain. In the distance, she heard the sound of a door opening and footsteps approaching. Afraid that it was the teacher, Seul Gi lowered her head to cover her face. Yoo Je I then took off Seul Gi's hat. Looking at the sweet girl in front of her, Seul Gi wondered, was she an angel or a devil? Yoo Je I pulled Seul Gi straight to her family's hospital. Seul Gi followed behind, bewildered. Yoo Je I led her into the elevator and down to the basement. The luxurious and well-equipped interior left Seul Gi glancing around in awe, while Yoo Je I sat comfortably in a chair as a nurse examined her. Seul Gi looked at Yoo Je I with some confusion until she saw the nurse hand her a few pills and instruct her to rest well that night to be in the best condition. Only then did Seul Gi realize Yoo Je I was preparing for her tutoring session. She couldn't help but marvel at how poverty had truly limited her imagination. Next, Yoo Je I led Seul Gi to the tutoring room. While Seul Gi was looking around, Yoo Je I opened a locker and took out a brand new school uniform that had been prepared in advance. She handed it to Seul Gi. You won't reject my kindness again, will you? Why are you being so nice to me? Put on the clothes and I'll answer your question, Yoo Je I said before unbuttoning Seul Gi's old uniform. Seul Gi couldn't refuse. When Yoo Je I removed Seul Gi's shirt, she noticed a scar hidden beneath the collar, an old wound from past bullying. Yoo Je I didn't ask any questions, as if she had already guessed the story behind it. The new uniform fit Seul Gi perfectly. How did you know my size? I hugged you before. Actually, I wanted to get you new shoes too, but they say if you gift someone shoes, they'll run away, Yoo Je I replied with a playful smile. At this moment, Seul Gi was still curious. Why was Yoo Je I so kind to her? Because I respect you, Yoo Je I admitted. I actually know everything. Back at your old school, you never missed being number one. She was curious about Seul Gi's study methods, how she managed to be the top student without private tutoring. Seul Gi hadn't expected that to be the reason. She explained that she was only able to top her small-town school. Now that she was in Seoul, without any tutoring, she couldn't even understand the test questions. Yoo Je I smiled and handed Seul Gi a set of test papers from the tutoring class. She wanted to make a deal. She would give Seul Gi all the test materials from the tutoring center, and in return, Seul Gi had to explain her study methods in detail. While Seul Gi was still considering this beneficial offer, the voices of Yoo Je I's two best friends suddenly echoed from outside. Yoo Je I quickly hid the clothes and pulled Seul Gi into a locker. The two girls entered the study room and immediately started bad-mouthing Yoo Je I and Seul Gi. They mocked Seul Gi, calling her Yoo Je I's new servant. The girl with long hair sneered, "She's such a weirdo." Hearing this, Yoo Je I hurriedly covered Seul Gi's ears. The long-haired girl continued, "I saw in Seul Gi's records that her father passed away, but her mother is much younger than him. She's probably some illegitimate child with an unknown background." As these malicious speculations went on, Yoo Je I smiled at Seul Gi, making sure she didn't hear any of it. Suddenly, Seul Gi's phone vibrated. The two girls turned towards the noise and were about to open the locker. Thinking fast, Yoo Je I sent a message, skillfully diverting their attention. After they left, Yoo Je I took Seul Gi out of the hospital using a private elevator. To express her gratitude, Seul Gi gifted Yoo Je I her cherished Seoul National University keychain. However, instead of leaving immediately, Seul Gi went to the hospital's funeral hall. She recalled that 4 months ago she had finally found the father she had been separated from for 13 years. But before she could even call him Dad, a strange accident took his life, leaving them forever apart. Seul Gi and her stepmother handled the funeral together. Her father's funeral was held at this very hospital. On the day of the ceremony, his attending physician also came to pay his respects. Seul Gi had wanted to ask the doctor about her father, but then she saw the man embracing his daughter affectionately. Later, when Seul Gi transferred to her new school, she discovered that the doctor's daughter was none other than Yoo Je I. Yoo Je I wasn't just rich. She was the queen of the school. Seul Gi envied everything Yoo Je I had. Now that Yoo Je I was extending an olive branch, Seul Gi thought that perhaps she could use this opportunity to change her fate. Taking the tutoring test papers Yoo Je I had given her, she began studying. However, after flipping through them for a while, she didn't even know where to start. In the end, she had no choice but to rely on the mysterious pills to clear her mind. The effects were immediate. She quickly focused and immersed herself in studying. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Yoo Je I and her two best friends had finished their tutoring session. Yoo Je I's father personally drove them home. On the way, the two friends used the excuse of shopping to get out of the car early. They didn't like being around Yoo Je I's father, as he always made them uncomfortable. After they left, Yoo Je I's father suddenly asked about Seul Gi. "I heard she's very smart. I'm worried she might surpass you." Yoo Je I replied, It's not something you need to worry about, Dad." Hearing this, her father was finally satisfied and fell silent. The next day, when Seul Gi arrived at class, she learned that Yoo Je I's deskmate was absent for some unknown reason. After school, Seul Gi packed her things and returned to Yoo Je I's side. "Je Yi, can I sit here?" Yoo Je I, of course, agreed. So, with Seul Gi back by Yoo Je I's side, the most anxious person was Yoo Je I's short-haired friend. This was because Yoo Je I had once promised to nominate her as class president. However, now that Yoo Je I and Seul Gi were so close, she worried that Yoo Je I would nominate Seul Gi instead. Her worries soon became reality. During the afternoon class meeting, Yoo Je I indeed nominated Seul Gi for class president. Her words practically guaranteed that Seul Gi would take the position. However, to maintain fairness, the homeroom teacher still held a vote for formality's sake. As expected, Seul Gi received the highest number of votes and became the class president, while the short-haired girl came in second with only a few votes less. Unwilling to accept the result, the short-haired girl rushed to the podium to inspect the ballots. She discovered that several ballots had identical handwriting, and suspected that someone had tampered with the votes to help Seul Gi win. Seul Gi challenged her to name the culprit outright, but the girl was at a loss for words. No matter how frustrated she was, she didn't dare expose Yoo Je I's little trick in front of everyone. In the end, she had no choice but to accept the position of vice president. However, Yoo Je I still didn't let her off the hook. She demanded that the short-haired girl apologize to both the class and the class president. Already at a disadvantage, she could only grit her teeth and apologize to Seul Gi and the entire class. From that moment on, Seul Gi officially assumed her role as class president. That evening, just as Seul Gi arrived home, Yoo Je I called her, asking her to treat her to a celebration for becoming class president. Seul Gi didn't refuse, and arranged to meet Yoo Je I at a karaoke bar. Seul Gi arrived first and began singing. Yoo Je I came a bit later and joined her. Seeing Yoo Je I show up, Seul Gi was deeply surprised because ever since childhood, she had always been forgotten. Whenever she waited for someone, she was always met with emptiness. However, Yoo Je I told her, "I may be late, but if I've made a promise to you, I'll definitely show up." Hearing this, Seul Gi was overwhelmed with emotions. After that, Yoo Je I invited Seul Gi to sleep over at her house. Seul Gi hesitated, but Yoo Je I had already grabbed her and taken her home. Yoo Je I's house was so large that one couldn't see the end of it. As soon as they went upstairs, they encountered Yoo Je I's dog, and Seul Gi learned that Yoo Je I also had an older sister. Yoo Je I then led Seul Gi to her room. The room resembled a deep ocean, quiet and dreamy. It was the kind of room Seul Gi had always dreamed of having. At that moment, Yoo Je I's dog brought in a princess dress. Seeing the dress, memories flooded back to Seul Gi, and she was deeply moved. She shared with Yoo Je I a story from her childhood, about how she had gotten lost. "But that wasn't your fault. It wasn't your fault at all. It was the adult's responsibility to check the number of children. Thank you for sharing such a difficult story with me." Yoo Je I's comforting words lifted a weight off Seul Gi's heart. Time passed quickly, and before they knew it, it was late at night. Yoo Je I removed her jacket and invited Seul Gi to take a bath together. Seul Gi had never bathed with anyone before. She was so embarrassed that she didn't know where to look. "Why is your face so red?" being asked, that Seul Gi became so flustered that she couldn't respond. "Don't tell me you're thinking of something weird? What weird thing?" "Like this." After bathing, the two lay down to sleep together, but Seul Gi couldn't sleep. Her heart was restless. Meanwhile, the short-haired girl was still fuming over the class president incident. She wasn't willing to let it go. She examined the ballots again, hoping to find solid proof that Yoo Je I had rigged the votes for Seul Gi. Just then, her mother arrived home from work, startling her. After her mother left the room, she accidentally noticed a legal document. Her mother had brought back a lawsuit regarding a case of infant swapping. The defendant was none other than Yoo Je I's father. Her eyes lit up instantly. This could be a weakness she could use against Yoo Je I. At the same time, her long-haired friend shared some information she had discovered. She had looked into Yoo Je I's former seatmate and found out that, for some unknown reason, their entire family had abruptly moved away. The long-haired girl was convinced that this must be connected to Yoo Je I. Back at Yoo Je I's house, Seul Gi still couldn't sleep. She accidentally saw Yoo Je I's phone light up with a new message. Glancing at it, she realized it was from Yoo Je I's former seatmate. The message read, "I will apologize to Seul Gi and transfer schools immediately. Please, I beg you, delete the video." Seeing this, Seul Gi started to panic. Did Yoo Je I also have a video of her? Anxious, she picked up Yoo Je I's phone and secretly checked it. As she scrolled through the messages, her eyes widened in shock. What on earth had she just discovered? Subscribe to the channel to find out in the next episode.